Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Ali Corbin, Justin Nielsen here with a look at the action in today's session, Monday, August 7th, where we saw the S&P 500 and NASDAQ snap a 4-day losing streak with stocks up across the board. Justin, what do you have on tap for us today?
Yeah, we'll take a look at a few of the stocks that are either just shaking off any weakness or coming out and pulling back in a nice orderly fashion. So we'll take a look at Mercado Libre and Airbnb in the travel area, and United Rentals still looking strong in the construction space.
Let's do it. First, let's take a look at the major indexes. The NASDAQ today up 0.6%, but it was outpaced by the S&P 500 up 0.9%. But leading the day was the Dow up 1.2%. Small caps didn't quite get to see as big of gains as the other indexes today, Justin, with the Russell 2000 up just 0.1% here. But talk to us about what we're seeing on the index level. It looks like the NASDAQ still closed below that 14,000 level.
Yeah, which again, it's not unexpected here. It's fine for it to spend a little bit of time beneath that level, but hopefully, what it can do is build a little platform here, and it might even see a touch to that 50-day moving average line. Again, it doesn't have that far to go, just a couple percent, and it could even see a rise of the 50-day moving average line to kind of meet up with the price. So, really not a disaster here. And as whippy as it was to start, there was a lot of back and forth action, especially in the Nasdaq. But the fact that we finished strong is a positive. A lot of times we see a strong start to the day fade, and that's what we were kind of afraid of early on in the session. But coming back strong was a nice positive. If we can see more of these days where we finish strong, I think that's going to be a good thing, as opposed to Friday's action where we started strong and finished very weak.
Right, because even though the NASDAQ did see a decline of almost 2.9% last week, it's not like we're just totally falling apart this week, at least as of yet. So if we can continue to find support right around that 10-week line, like you said, let that 50-day line catch up, that could present us with a lot of great new, fresh buying opportunities in a market that's seen such a strong first 7 months of the year.
Yeah, but keep in mind, it doesn't mean, hey, just be complacent and, this is the only possible scenario where we just bounce and come back and, roses are blooming and the birds are singing. There could be a little bit more serious correction. And so you have to keep that in mind as a possibility. Right now it's looking very normal. It's looking not too bad, but you always have to keep in mind, hey, things could get worse. And if they do, what kind of actions am I going to take? And it might also just temper your buying, because there always is that just in case.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Let's quickly take a look at the other indexes. Here's a look at the S&P 500 closing above 4,500 today and its 21-day line. Also, the Dow here, a nice bounce off of its 21-day line, Justin. And look at ORUS. This is the Russell 2000, finding support at its 21-day line as well.
Yeah. So again, you're seeing a lot of broad-based participation still, which is a positive. And even though the small caps didn't really participate that much today, you're seeing that there's support at some reasonable levels. Again, it doesn't mean that this support holds, but right now there really isn't too much reason to panic.
Yeah. Take it day by day. What about 0TNX? Perhaps last week this did spark a little bit of panic among some investors with just how sharp a rise it saw. And we did see it bounce a little bit here today, and it's still above that 4% level.
Yeah, but given the big widespread that was happening on Friday, this isn't much of a bounce. That 4% is still the level that I'm watching. If we're staying above there, that might be just one of those issues that we either have to get used to and adapt and price in the higher 10-year Treasury yield, which does affect the discounted rate on future earnings and everything like that, especially for growth stocks. But it's worth keeping an eye on, because you have to really take a look at how this plays and if it's correlated to the market. Sometimes they will go in inverse ways. Sometimes they'll kind of go together. So just keeping in mind what the relationship is, and if it strays, diverges, or what happens there.
Great. And now I'm going to pull up some different sector ETFs, and Justin, as I go through them, you can Provide your analysis.
Rapid fire, let's go. So SMH, Vanex Semiconductors, pretty impressive that this is staying above that 50-day moving average line. Really just kind of flattening out. If you look at the weekly, it's really not showing much damage, even though a lot of the semiconductors have been hit and tech has been hit, still not getting damaged. IGV, meanwhile, that's pulled back and is looking like it's getting support right there where you'd like to see it at the 50-day moving average line. You could potentially see a bounce here. So again, this is a scenario that you have to have in mind. Over in the financial area, this is kind of setting up in a nice little pattern, a cup with handle pattern for the XLF, which is the sector spider financial area. And then ITB, a lot of stocks in the home builders, they were looking very interesting, kind of coming into the 21-day moving average line, potentially getting support, maybe the 50-day line. There just wasn't much volume in a lot of those today. So something to be keeping an eye on. And then IYT, which is the transportation, still an area that we're seeing, a lot of strength in after it kind of came out in June. And this pullback has been pretty orderly so far, being held by the 21-day moving average line.
Great job there, Justin. Now let's take a look at Mercado Libre. This is MELI, M-E-L-I. I think after that explosive move on earnings last week, we were hoping it would pause for a couple of days, but nope. Just one day down and now up strongly again today by about 4.8% in some volume. And now it's coming right up to that left side high.
So now we'll see how it handles itself at that previous high. And I'll be honest, Mercado Libre, at the beginning of the year, I thought this was going to be one of the big winners. I was really disappointed that it was basing when everything else was moving, and that relative strength line really reflects it. But now this is moving, and while I don't like buying something as it crosses above that buy line, if it's come up kind of straight from the bottom, this has really had a number of weeks up. You could easily see this take a pause here, take a break, and that would be ideal. But keep in mind, this one might not take a break. It had a one-day break, and then it was right back to the races for this one. So worth watching. It's got such great fundamental numbers here, and such a good story. It just might not be ready to be held back by this uptrend under pressure.
We'll have to see how this chart develops. And let's also take a look at Airbnb, trying to find support around that 21-day line and that round number at 140.
Yeah, so this is one where, we've been paying attention so much to travel. I mean, if you look at what Booking did today, BKNG, I mean, that had a really big move in this same industry group after its earnings. But Airbnb has had a nice little pattern that formed. I think we could all agree that the 130 area was a nice early entry for this one. And so if you got in at that point, you're really still sitting on gains. If you had bought at 144, that might have been a little bit of a tougher hold, but you probably weren't down more than 5%. So it's still holding up very well. Compared to a lot of things, this does look pretty orderly to me. And even though there was a little bit of a volume spike on that earnings to the downside, it really hasn't had too much volume there. And you can see that it's trying to resist the downward trend.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the stock went from 103 to 156 in a very quick clip. So to see some sort of pause, digestion, high handle here, definitely seems like a welcome development, especially for those with a lower cost basis, I would say. Not if you were buying it at the highs.
And that's the trick right now for a lot of folks. If you were buying recently, you might have been buying extended. And so that is really going to change how you handle a potential correction here. If this lasts a little bit long, or gets a little bit deeper, that's going to be really tough if you bought higher cost shares as opposed to those that bought earlier.
Let's now take a look at URI. This is United Rentals with a breakout today. We snuck in a look at this one right at the end of IBD Live this morning, and it was able to hold that gain throughout the day, closing pretty high in its trading range, Justin, up 4.5% in some nice volume.
Yeah, going back to the well on this one, because we were talking about this, I think, last week on the Stock Market Today video as it crossed this downtrend. So this is one of the benefits of an early entry. An early entry, this could be an add-on for you. You could be adding on, or you at least have cushion now. But regardless, this is still a follow-up buy. and still within range. And I really like the volume that appeared here. This was something that was
Mhm.
missing in a lot of stocks today, but United Rentals really had it. And this is something, again, you just observing what's going on. I can't tell you how many times I pass freeway construction and you see United Rentals equipment, on the side of the road doing stuff, all sorts of things. So just this had that nice move up off its bottom from 330, 325. And this
Mhm.
one did give you a pause. So really nice action. And again, this has got, solid numbers, EPS rating of 97, double digit on both the top line and the bottom line. Hard to argue against that.
Mhm. And a quick honorable mention for Delta Airlines, DAL. We're seeing an orderly pullback unfold here for the stock, Justin, with the price declines coming in light volume, continuing to trickle off. It's bouncing off of the 50-day line now, but now is when we want to see that volume come back
Yeah,
as it
ideally.
bounces.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to Ed since he mentioned this on Friday, and this became the stock of the day
Mhm.
today. So for those that are wanting to kind of get a little bit more information on that, Alan Elliott, who has been an editor for us for a long time, he wrote a nice article on that today. So definitely check that out. The stock of the day.
Thanks, Justin. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, and we hope you join us. David Ryan, he's going to be back on the panel in his usual Tuesday slot. So it'll be great to get his thoughts on where we're at in the market. A quick look before we go, though, at Palantir. Hot stock in the market right now, Justin. Shares down 3.5% in the early reaction to the results. It did look like some early headlines coming out that they boosted their guidance, but we'll see what the reaction is like come
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I mean, given that we were looking at the expected move on the options market that had this at like 13.5%,
This is mild.
3% is mild,
Yeah,
absolutely. So, but this is early going. So we'll see what happens tomorrow when it opens.
great. Thanks, Justin. So yeah, we'll be there at the open IBD Live. Hope you join us, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. We'll see you there. And we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close.